Hello, everybody. Thank you for making the trek over and going through security just to come to this presentation. I definitely know that 6 o'clock on the first night while they're serving alcohol over there, you are all the people that actually want to know what I'm about to present. Thank you. My name's Dan Killmer. I lead up the solution architect team at Twilio for the account security products. Verify is one of those products. We're going to be talking about that today. I also represent the Lookup Phone Intelligence product and the Authy product. So building phone verification at scale. How many of you were in the keynote this morning? I remember when the CEO of SendGrid was up there saying, yeah, we moved away from one SMS provider who was taking minutes to get those one-time password codes to our end users to Twilio on the Verify product to getting it down to seconds. I think that really sums up very nicely what it is we're after here. We're talking about global delivery capabilities, messages that actually get there, and we're talking about performant routes, that they get there quickly, that the messages aren't queued, that you're on transactional routes that aren't used for generic marketing messages that are okay if they get there a week from today. So what I want to do to start out here is actually just give you a real brief demo of Verify in action. And we have a lot of helper libraries available to you. The Twilio standard libraries that you might use for the rest of the products are the same libraries you can use to manage your development with Twilio Verify. We're actually going to just do a curl command example here. And up on the upper left is the command that I'm going to run to start sending an SMS. In this particular instance, we are generating the code. We recommend that you use our code generation and validation logic, but you don't have to. And we'll talk a little bit about why that is a little later. You're going to create a Twilio Verify service SID. You'll see that in the URL. You're going to send a phone number, just like you send to programmable SMS or voice or whatever, and then you're going to choose a channel. You can choose with Verify between SMS and call. And then you're just going to send in your standard Twilio credentials to make all of this happen. So let's go ahead and see what that does. I have it all queued up down below in the terminal window here. Let me actually bring that up a little bit. And we're going to kick off, and I am maybe not on the Wi-Fi. I did not check that. No, it should be good. Great, so demo decided not to work on this side of the house. Why would that be? I shouldn't expect that the VPN is needed. I think that we're going to move on from the demo for the moment, and we'll give it a try at the end if we can. Since this is just a short little thing that shows you a start that sends a message and some verifies in the end. 503. All right. So let's just talk about why you want to build on the solution where the demo isn't working. What was going to happen is 2 lines of code got you through this, and that's when I was going to tell you, you're all done. You've just built a global, scalable system that you didn't have to think about telecom. You did not have to think about how do I get this delivered in Saudi Arabia or Jordan or Indonesia or India. So thank you. But I suppose you actually want to know what's actually going on under the hood. And so we're going to cover those things. We're going to start out by talking a little bit about the Twilio Super Network. This is the foundation that Verify is built on top of. Then we're going to talk about the specific use case scenario, the high-level layer that Verify is running on, and all the benefits that you get. Then we're going to do a side-by-side comparison of you using Twilio Verify or using an SMS provider, whether it's Twilio or another vendor, and the steps that you might need to do to replicate the same functionality that you're going to get with Verify. And we'll go through some checklists and wrap up. So let's start out with Twilio's amazing super network. You probably already know a little bit about this, but it's important to note that the super network is all over the globe. You can see all of our points of presence locally. We have teams in each of these places, making sure that your messages are hitting the network in the right place, depending on the destination address of the SMS or voice call that you're making. So it really starts, what makes the super network amazing is about our relationships. We look for tier 1 carrier partners all around the globe. We have our in-region carrier operations to make sure that we can give you 24/7 round-the-clock effective support. You don't have just a support center on the other side of the globe. You actually have talent on the other side of the globe that can fix your problems. And we're always looking to make our network better and better. And this is something that happens every single day. We're always looking for better routes. We're always trying to improve upon what we're doing. We prioritize quality over low cost. We try to get the best routes there to deliver the premium service that you expect from Twilio. This becomes really, really important when you're delivering one-time passwords with an expectation of a quick turnaround. Now, one thing that you need to understand is that we're kind of spoiled. If you're from the US, you send an SMS and it gets there and it's quick, for the most part. That's not the case in the rest of the world. It's a lot harder to deliver messages in a lot of countries around the globe. And then we finish up this continuous improvement by looking at the landscape, the competitors, everything else that's going on in this space so that we can improve our product. And the third thing is just our redundancy and scalability. You already see some of the redundancy on that map behind this slide. But we do things like graceful failover. When something does go wrong, we have backup routes. We have other ways to try to get that message through. If it is anywhere in the complicated ecosystem other than the end carrier, we have another way to get there. And we do something that maybe you're not getting with other providers. We incentivize the carriers for the top performing routes. The people that work the best get the most traffic from Twilio. And I don't know if you saw 60 billion transactions or whatever, a huge chunk of those transactions that were discussed that we do yearly are happening over SMS. And so we know how to scale our system. So how does the super network fit into Twilio? That bottom blue bar is the super network. This is where your voice connectivity to the telecom infrastructure, the SMS connectivity is there, your phone numbers are there. And then one layer up is where you're going to see the APIs that you're probably used to if you've been around Twilio for a while, programmable SMS and voice and chat. And a little bit higher on top of those things are our intelligent services, SMS Copilot. If you're going to build something on SMS, definitely look at our messaging service called Copilot to help you out. If you're already just using SMS, at least look at that. And then we got SMS privacy, redaction of numbers and message bodies. We have call control and some other things, and insights. All of these things to help you be able to better leverage the capabilities of Twilio. And then we have what's up on top. Now you saw in the keynotes a lot of attention on Flex. And you might have seen a little snippet in Flex with Authy doing a little bit of authentication of a user dialing into a contact center. And then Verify. All of these things take advantage. You heard Al Cook say that Flex takes advantage of everything you see on here and more. And Verify takes advantage of pretty much the whole left-hand side of this diagram. That's a lot less that you have to worry about because it's just built into Verify. So it's built on top of Twilio. It's purpose-built. We've learned a lot of lessons over the last few years from all of our customers building these systems. What what do we need to do to make their life easier? And that's what we've built into Verify. That's what's baked into the product. We have a dedicated team that handles the performance and the regulations that are required to deliver in some parts of the globe to make sure that your messages get through. And you just don't have to think about that. You can just open up an account right now in this room and send a message to India, and it will get through. It's ready to deliver on day one, and there's a significant amount of intelligence behind this use case API, and that intelligence is used to make sure that we can route around problems that are at a macro level, like a whole region is having problems, or at a micro level, one user is having problems, and we have intelligence that will help you ensure that the next time they request a message, maybe it takes a different route to get to the end user. So, building yourself, on the left-hand side, you're going to need a little bit of telecom expertise. Now, Twilio makes it easier, but you still need to understand what you need to go through to deliver in India, to deliver in Argentina, to deliver in Mexico. It's not simple. And you're going to probably need some lead time to deliver in the US and Canada, because you're going to need to go get a shortcode, or you're going to need to transfer a shortcode to be able to successfully deliver at scale. You might get a few messages out on a long code in these geographies, but you're not going to get anything out on scale because you're going to get blocked, because long codes are not meant for the type of traffic that you're sending here. So building with Twilio Verify, that telecom is included. You're ready to go. You might want to add a voice channel. Voice is really good globally to work around delivery problems of SMS in certain parts of the globe. And that's a whole separate development against a separate API, and there's a lot of things that you have to think about when you do that. Voice option is just a parameter with Verify. You're going to need to deal with ongoing global delivery. You're going to want to make sure that you're monitoring, tuning, and scaling this solution. And this is not something that stops when you're done developing. This is a complex thing, this telecom thing, and so you're going to need to make sure that you factor that into what you're building. Global delivery is actually monitored and scaled with automatic failover built into the Verify product in ways that relieve a lot of the responsibilities that you might otherwise need to take care of, and for this specific use case. Now, the specific use case is getting a one-time password to a user and having that user validate that code. Because we're getting that code validation, there's a lot that we can do to say, yep, the user got it, and we can understand the performant routes, and if the user didn't get it, oftentimes we'll catch that before your user even has a chance to complain or raise a ticket. So you're probably going to want to assure security and privacy. You don't want your two-factor solution or your one-time password solution to be able to be compromised in any easy way. This is not an easy feat. You need to make sure that you're properly generating random codes if you're using your own codes. But more than that, there's a whole bunch of things that you're going to need to take care of. And you're probably concerned about privacy. You're sharing numbers with an SMS vendor. You need to understand what is happening with those phone numbers. And we're going to talk about those things, but you really get a whole bunch of security and privacy. From a security perspective, we're doing regular pen tests, open code reviews. We're going through certification processes. It's all we do. We are staffed up entirely with a team of security engineers, and we have a dedicated security analyst. His job is to make sure that everything we do is secure, and he actually analyzes every single deployment to make sure that it meets that criteria. And then interestingly, we never store or log the user's phone number that you sent to us. And so that's going to be an interesting thing that we're going to dig into. And then global localization might be a requirement. You might need to send messages in a bunch of different languages. And so you're going to have to at least localize some strings for SMS. And if you want the voice option, there's probably not enough text-to-speech engines to cover a true global scale. So you might need to hire some voice actors and create a relatively complex IVR. And Twilio Verify includes SMS and voice support, including voice actors that have put together the phrases necessary to create an intelligent and robust interactive engine in 36 plus languages around the globe. All right, so we're going to dig into all of those details right now. And this is an implementation checklist that you'll be able to go through in detail. If you're really interested in what we're doing here today, I definitely recommend that you see Josh Staples and Lucas Vidal's session tomorrow at 2 p.m. To get into the details of the best practices of using this solution. But let's go and talk about what it takes, what you get out of Twilio and what it's going to take for yourself. And so what I have on the top here is a little counter or scorecard. On the left-hand side, we're going to have Twilio. On the right-hand side, we're going to have building yourself. And it's kind of like basically the number of projects that you're going to need to take on to achieve the same results that Twilio Verify brings to you. So a lower score is better, by the way, just to be clear. So global telecom is included with Twilio. Shortcodes in a lot of countries, seven countries maybe, US, UK, Canada, Peru, Colombia, and maybe a few others are ready to go, registered for this use case, registered for the types of messages that are going through here on a transactional route. Long numbers, where we need long numbers, they've been pre-provisioned. We try to get the long numbers close to in the same country as the users when we need to use those. And then something called alphanumeric sender Ids that's not available in the US, but in a lot of the globe it is available. It's actually an alpha string that replaces the from number. It's not actually coming from a number, it's coming from a string. It's a one-way communication. And these things are really reliable. They're not subject to some of the same problems as long numbers, but they need to be pre-configured and pre-templated to be successful. So let's see what's going on. You get that for free with Twilio, so the score is 0 on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you're going to need to go and purchase and scale your required telecom to get the shortcodes that you need. Now, let's just talk about what's been going on in the market. Canada very recently started enforcing a law that they put on the books that said if you're using A2p traffic, so there's P2p traffic and A2p traffic. P2p is person to person, long code to long code. You can go all over and make that happen. If you're connecting two individuals, you can use those long codes. But when you're sending one-time passwords, it needs to go over a shortcode because that's considered application to person traffic. Your application is sending a code to a person, and so you need to be sending this over shortcodes. What happens if you don't? Well, in the US, if you get to a high enough volume, the carriers are going to start filtering you. In Canada, they just shut you down. You're done. And guess what? It takes 8 to 12 weeks to get one of these shortcodes if you are provisioning it yourself or transferring it to Twilio. US, Canada, UK, those are the 3 regions that Twilio actually sells shortcodes. The combination of those 3 would set you back $44,000 a year. Telecom is included with Twilio Verify. Next up, you're going to need to buy some long numbers. These long numbers, one of their main limitations besides the regulations is 1 message per second per number. So it's going to be really hard to buy enough numbers to scale to any heavy amount of traffic. And these long numbers are going to cost you $1 in the US, up to $120 a month in our most expensive markets. And it's up to you to make sure that you're scaling and putting the right number of numbers in there to reduce or eliminate any queuing that your users might encounter. 1 message a second per number. And then finally, registering alphanumeric sender Ids and templates where required. I know this is a lot of little text up there, but I just wanted to give you an idea. There's about 20 countries today that you're not going to succeed in sending to if you do not get a registered alphanumeric sender ID. And this is a growing list. There's more countries that will accept an alphanumeric sender ID. It's still recommended that you pre-register the template. You can get a full list on Twilio.com. If you just search for alphanumeric sender IDs, site:/Twilio.com, you'll get the whole skinny on this. And so this takes a little bit of time. We've done it for you on our shared infrastructure, and we can do it for you on your specific requirements if countries that you need to send to are on this list. All right, so 0 to 3 so far. You got all of that for free with Verify. You got 3 things you got to take care of with some expenses associated on building it yourself. So now let's talk about sending the OTP. With Twilio Verify, OTP code generation is included. We do recommend this, and we recommend it because when the user actually verifies the token, they enter it into your website, you ask us, is this the code you sent? We say yes or no, and then we log that information and we use it to create our self-healing routes. So this is something that you can't get with marketing messages because you never actually know if that actually made it to the end user unless they click through and you maybe have some things like that. But with a one-time password, since it's a real specific purpose, most of the time if it makes it to the user, they're gonna type it into your website. For SMS and voice, you're going to need to send an OTP code via Twilio Verify. Okay, so this is the first thing you got to do. You got to send an OTP code. So we just raised the counter by 1. It's pretty trivial. You saw the code, even though you didn't see it in action. And you're going to get global delivery through the Twilio Super Network like we described, including some very cherry-picked use case premium routes. We know how to get the best routes and how to rub the backs of the Super Network team to make sure that we have the routes that are the most performant and the most reliable out there, because that's what this use case is about. Again, we're pre-localized in all those languages for both SMS and voice, so you don't have to do anything there. And all logic included to deliver that dynamic code via voice is included. You don't have to build anything to control the experience when that voice call comes into the user. And we have a feature, voicemail phishing protection, to make sure that that one-time password doesn't make it onto voicemail in a recorded form, because voicemail then becomes a weak point in your solution for a hacker to try to take advantage of, and it happens a lot. All right, build yourself. You got to generate that OTP code. It's really not that hard, but we're still going to give it a one-up because it's something you have to do, and you need to make sure that it's secure. Then you're going to send it. Global delivery, not easy. Make sure you choose a good partner that is going to help you quickly resolve problems because users are locked out. You're going to want to localize that, and that's just strings for SMS. Voice, when you send the OTP code, localizing that, you're probably going to need to hire some voice actors to get the full coverage that you need. And you're going to need to create dialing and IVR logic to control the user experience for that outbound call. All right, so we're at 1 to 9 now. Let's talk about validating and tracking. So you can validate an OTP code with Twilio. That's number 2 for Twilio. Twilio Verify now has 2 calls. Or you can use your own code and send some feedback to us to tell us whether or not the user had validated the code. We support both things. The first one, you don't have to do anything extra. The second one, we need that feedback to ensure that you get the benefit of our intelligent routing. You get tracking logic, you get a dashboard and reporting all included. Building yourself, you're going to have to validate the OTP code with your logic, another project for yourself. You're going to need to build the logic to track the valid codes, the invalid codes, the codes that were never checked by time, by country, by carrier. And you'll see why in a moment, because you are going to need to be able to identify where and when certain routes or certain countries are having problems. That's not something that anybody has any control over. It just happens, and it happens all the time, especially on a global scale. Now you're going to need to build reports and a dashboard to go see all of those things and analyze what's going on. And this is what you get for free with Verify Insights. And so that top chart is showing our steady state validation stats globally for this is what you would see in your console for your traffic. We can see a few bumps in the road there. That top line is the number of codes validated. The bottom line is the number of codes that were incorrect. Could be a user fat fingering it, a user guessing, or some sort of attack, or it could just be the user misunderstood which number they were supposed to type in. And your goal is to try to see if there's things you can do in the user experience of your site to minimize that bottom line. The second one is percentiles on code validation time. You want to get your top 90 percentile to be in, like a minute or less. That's a really good target. It should be less than that. It should be like 20 seconds, like we heard from SendGrid. But it's not going to happen all the time. But you want to try to see the trends that you have, and as you get down to the last little percentage of your users, there's going to be people that abandon the process. There's also going to be some delivery delays in certain parts of the world, and that's going to change the percentile graph. Now that bottom one is a duplicate of the top one broke down by carriers. And here we can see some really interesting things. The blue line shows a carrier that just basically fell off the planet. And that resulted in the overall baseline up top starting to decline a little bit. And then the green line, it looks like somebody had some real queuing problems with their messages. They had some delivery delays and then they recovered. And you can drill that down to the specific carrier country so that you can proactively communicate to your users, yeah, we're having some problems in these particular countries getting one-time passwords, please be patient. So monitoring and tuning. This is probably the most important thing to ensure the health of your one-time password delivery system. You need to make sure that it's scaled, that it's performant, and that you're monitoring the success of your solution so that you can detect problems with this extra information as quickly as possible. And you know, with Twilio Verify, you also get all of that redundant routing included. You might need to, if you're building with SMS, and a lot of people do this, they build with a lot of different partners to try to hedge their bets. We've built this system to basically auto-heal in the same way that you might build it yourself. Automatic rerouting logic, a dedicated team. We still leverage the Twilio Super Network team. They're amazing. And you get the dedicated Verify and Authy monitoring team. It's a shared ecosystem between the two products. They both can send SMS and voice. All routes are high quality transactional. We work very hard on cherry picking those routes to make sure that you get the best quality because performance is super, super important here. And you get Verify service status callbacks. These are status callbacks specific to the Verify product to alert you to any issues sending, which is an SMS or voice issue, but more importantly, issues even validating codes. Like if we're seeing some success problems in a country, you'll be able to get alerts on that. Building yourself. You're going to need to take care of that scale, make sure you have enough numbers provisioned, the right shortcodes and the like. Build that performance out, take care of the success monitoring and routing on your own. You're going to need to be able to detect problems with non-delivery and queuing, things that you really shouldn't need to have to deal with. Why do messages get queued? Because they're often on shared routes that are doing marketing messages and it's not a transactional route. Maybe it's a gray route that's just trying to get the cheapest route into that particular country. Non-delivery, not a big deal in the US, but you go to Indonesia and the carriers all tell you that they delivered the message. It's not true. Most of them get queued and show up well past the usable time. You're going to want to make sure that the vendor you choose has a great set of routing teams and that you build those relationships. Monitor your user activity for success rates and work with the vendor routing team to ensure that you get as much of those transactional routes as you can and to optimize when the routes aren't performing. And then finally, you're going to need to identify what tools are available to and implement tools to make sure that you can alert your team when there are issues sending SMS. And actually, there's one more point. That's sending SMS. You also need to build logic yourself to alert your teams to issues validating codes. So if users are having trouble validating codes, it's usually a sign that they're actually not getting the SMS regardless of what the carriers tell you. So we're at 3 to 20 now. And I wanted to talk just a little bit about what you get out of the monitoring that I've just been talking about with the Twilio team. Here's two real examples that I want to talk through. This first one shows that at some point user code verifications went anomalous by 18.2% on one route in one country for one customer, and it set off alerts. It hit that red zone, and our team got alerts. They're on pager duty. They immediately needed to respond to this, and you can see when they resolved the problem. And here's another one that was an automatic one. 2 redundant routes to the same country with 2 different alpha sender IDs. One of them just stopped working. It's a technical glitch. You can see that the other route just picked up all the traffic automatically. That's the kind of power that you get with Twilio Verify under the hood. All right, security. We just got a few more slides here. Twilio Verify, the security features are included. You get all of the great security backing of the Twilio team, plus you get additional measures specific to this use case. You get that regular testing. You also get static addresses. In case you need to put static addresses in your outbound firewall rules. That's not something that's necessarily available everywhere. We'll whitelist your addresses for you if you want to make sure that your calls are only coming from your servers. And we have rate limiting built in to control people trying to do denial of service attacks, brute force attacks on the OTP system, people that are trying to game the system or try to do IRSF fraud on the system. So building yourself, you're going to need to do all of these things. You're going to need to leverage your vendor's general purpose, all-purpose security on their SMS and voice products. And you're going to need to take care of yourself, that third-party pen testing. You want to make sure that what you build is going to hold muster and that there's no weaknesses in it. And so this is the best way to do that. Ensure that you can get those static addresses and whitelist. And then you're going to need to design and build your per user and your service level rate limiting to serve your specific purposes to protect against all of those different types of common attacks. All right, privacy. We're at 4 to 23 now. Hopefully we're getting a sense of the fact that there's a lot of power behind this API. A lot of people do ask, well, I can build this myself. And we're saying, well, you know, Verify is a lot better. And it's really hard to tell from an API level because they really do the same thing. And hopefully this is driving home the point that there's a lot more intelligence built in under the hood for this use case. So, from a privacy perspective, by default, out of the box, all your message bodies are redacted and your phone numbers are hashed. We handle the phone number just long enough to deliver the message, never gets written to a log. We actually can't tell you what phone numbers just came in from your API calls. It's just not possible. And we take care of those message bodies and clear them out so that somebody can't find a way to compromise them and get that code in case there's any kind of breach in the access to these logs. And as you've probably heard a few times, we're GDPR compliant. Really important to have this, but we're not just GDPR compliant for Europe. We've applied the same principles across the globe so that as other countries catch up to what's going on in the European Union, you can know that we were already ready to handle a lot of what they're going to come up with. So building yourself, well, maybe your vendor has a redaction option. Hopefully it's free, but probably charge for that. Maybe you can do it through coding. You're going to need to evaluate those things. For phone number hashing or redaction, maybe same thing. There might be a vendor option. There might be some option for you to code it, or maybe you just don't have a solution here and you're going to need to accept some risk. And you'll want to make sure that your vendor is GDPR compliant. All right, I want to talk about one success story, somebody who's been on programmable SMS. It's a vendor with a commercial two-factor authentication product. They were actually using programmable SMS, and that Canada issue I talked to you about hit them. And all of a sudden, their users couldn't authenticate anymore. And they caught them off guard. Our team already had everything in place to properly deliver one-time passwords in Canada. A lot of people got caught by this. And there was even a backlog on getting shortcodes to address this. This was a customer that was actually multi-sourcing their SMS. Twilio was one of 6 SMS vendors that they were using to try to deliver globally. And to manage all of that, the logic, the intermeshing logic and the like, and to keep on top of the regulations, they had 3 dedicated telecom engineers. All they did all day long was manage these routes and manage the success and performance monitoring of this solution. And they consolidated onto Twilio Verify, and they reduced their telecom, they reduced their support, they reassigned their engineers elsewhere, and their estimate to us was that they were saving $1 million a year by making this move. All right, so the final score was 4-26. If you want some more information on Verify, of course you can go to twilio.com, or you can text this number and we'll give you a nice little cheat sheet that we put together with some bonus flow diagrams that Josh Staples is going to go over tomorrow that we haven't published on our website. So if you want a little extra information on best practices, I recommend that you text this. It'll be available to you in Josh's session tomorrow too. And come visit us. We have an account security pod in the big tent. Come talk to us, and we're willing to talk about anything that you've learned about here today. So 2 p.m. tomorrow in the breakout tent, AIDA, is Josh and Lucas giving the best practices for implementing these types of solutions. And thank you.